Hey there, fellow thrill seekers. Welcome back to my channel, the place where shadows come alive and whispers from the past reach out to you. Tonight, we're setting sail along the eerie coastline of the East Coast, where foggy nights hide secrets that have lingered for centuries. Lighthouses, towering beacons of safety for sailors and travelers. But not all lights guide the living. Some reveal the restless spirits trapped between worlds, warning us not of storms at sea, but of the darkness within. Tonight, we're counting down the 10 most haunted lighthouses on the East Coast. Each one has its own spine-tingling story, chilling legend, and unexplained phenomena that continue to baffle even the bravest ghost hunters. From inexplicable footsteps echoing through abandoned corridors to apparitions appearing at midnight. These lighthouses are more than mere structures. They are gateways to a haunted past. So grab a blanket, turn off the lights, and prepare yourself for tales of terror, heartbreak, and the supernatural. Some of these lighthouses have witnessed tragedies so haunting that even the bravest sailors think twice before approaching their light. And remember, every sound in the dark could be more than just the wind. Let's begin. The Cape Hatteras Lighthouse in North Carolina is more than just a towering black and white spiral beacon on the Outer Banks. To the casual visitor, it seems like a proud monument to the sailors. It has guided for more than a century. But for those who linger long enough, especially after the sun dips into the horizon and the restless ocean begins to roar, the lighthouse is more than a navigational aid. It is a place where the veil between the living and the dead is dangerously thin. Cape Hatteras has always been a graveyard of ships. The waters off the coast are known as the graveyard of the Atlantic, where shifting sandbars, unpredictable storms, and treacherous currents have dragged thousands of vessels to their doom. Since the lighthouse was first built in 1870, it has been both a savior and a silent witness to death. Sailors who never made it to shore, keepers who gave their lives tending the light, and locals whose tragedies are tied to the sea are all said to linger within the walls and along the surrounding shore. Visitors often describe an overwhelming heaviness when they climb the 257 steps to the top. Some have spoken of hearing faint voices calling their names, though no one else is nearby. Others have felt an icy hand brush against them as they pause to catch their breath. The air grows inexplicably cold in certain spots, and electronic devices sometimes fail without warning. One of the most chilling legends is tied to a keeper known only as Elijah. Records tell of a devoted man who served the light tirelessly, even during the fiercest storms. Local lore claims that Elijah died tragically in the tower after a fall down the steep spiral staircase. Since then, countless visitors have reported seeing a shadowy figure in the stairwell, dressed in keeper's clothes from the late 1800s. He appears most often on stormy nights, lantern in hand, climbing steadily upward, forever repeating the final journey that took his life. Another lingering presence is said to be the spirit of children who drowned in the waters near the Cape. Families who lost loved ones to the sea often gathered near the lighthouse, desperate for hope that never came. At night, ghost hunters have recorded the sound of laughter echoing faintly around the base of the tower. Some claim to see small wet footprints appear in the sand, leading toward the sea and vanishing as quickly as they appear. Theories suggest these are the echoes of children pulled under by the treacherous currents, forever trying to find their way home. The keepers who once lived in the lighthouse quarters also left their mark. Guests and staff have spoken of furniture moving slightly in the night, doors opening and closing without cause, and the smell of tobacco smoke lingering in empty rooms. Paranormal investigators believe at least one former keeper continues to watch over the property, unwilling to abandon his duty even in death. There are also accounts of ghostly sailors, shipwrecked victims, whose bodies were never recovered from the Atlantic. On moonlit nights, beachgoers sometimes describe the sound of men shouting orders in the distance, as if a phantom ship is struggling against the waves. At other times, witnesses claim to see glowing lights moving offshore, bobbing like lanterns across the black water before fading into nothing. Even nature itself seems to conspire in the haunting. During hurricanes and storms, the lighthouse has endured damage and relocation. Yet the legends grow stronger. In 1999, when the lighthouse was famously moved inland to protect it from erosion. Workers swore they felt unseen hands pushing against them, making the task more difficult. Tools went missing, strange voices were heard in the wind, and several workers quit abruptly after claiming they saw a ghostly figure in the stairwell during the move. Locals often warned curious visitors not to linger too long alone near the lighthouse at night. Many who have ignored this advice tell similar stories, a feeling of being watched, the sound of boots crunching on gravel close behind, and a sudden wave of fear so strong it drives them back toward the safety of the car park. Some skeptics laugh it off as the power of suggestion, but those who have felt it know better. Cape Hatteras is more than a landmark. It is a memorial carved in stone and light, holding the grief of every life lost in the graveyard of the Atlantic. Each story of a ghost sighting, each whisper in the wind, adds another layer to its reputation as one of the most haunted places on the East Coast. Today, visitors from around the world climb its steps for the view, but many leave with a story they never expected to tell. A shadow in the corner of their eye, a child's laugh in an empty stairwell, a chill that cuts to the bone despite the summer heat. The light still shines proudly across the Atlantic, but perhaps it is not only guiding ships, it's also a beacon for the restless dead, forever bound to the waters and the tower that watched over them in their final moments. The St. Augustine Lighthouse rises above the shoreline of Florida as one of the city's most iconic landmarks. By day, it is a striking black and white spiral tower, standing watch over the waters, a symbol of guidance and safety. But when night falls, and the waves crash against the coast under the pale light of the moon, the lighthouse becomes something entirely different. For beneath its beauty lies a history of loss, tragedy, and restless spirits that refuse to leave. The first lighthouse on this site was constructed in the 1820s, but the current tower was completed in 1874, after the original collapsed into the sea. From its earliest days, the lighthouse bore witness to the unforgiving dangers of maritime life. Sailors, keepers, and even children have all left their mark, their stories etched into the walls and the very air of the lighthouse. Visitors and staff alike claim that those who perished here have never truly left. A man hired in the 1870s to oversee the tower's construction. His children often played near the site, pushing it along the tracks that led down toward the water. One fateful day, the cart derailed, plunging the children into the water below. Several were rescued, but 2 little girls drowned before help could arrive. Since then, countless witnesses claim the laughter of children can be heard echoing in the stairwell late at night. Others have reported the sight of 2 small figures, their dresses damp, giggling as they dart in and out of shadowed corners before vanishing entirely. The keepers of the light have also left behind their presence. One former lighthouse keeper, Joseph Andrew, met his end in a horrific accident while painting the tower in the mid-1800s. He slipped and fell to his death, leaving his wife to take over his duties until a replacement could be found. To this day, visitors describe a tall, shadowy figure standing at the top of the stairwell, often accompanied by the faint smell of cigar smoke, a habit associated with several keepers of the past. Staff working late nights in the keeper's house have spoken of hearing footsteps pacing the hallways, as if a diligent watchman is still making his rounds long after his life ended. The keeper's house itself is a hub of paranormal activity. Today, it serves as a museum, but many employees refuse to remain inside, alone, after dark. Cold spots form in certain rooms, doors open and slam shut by unseen hands, and eerie whispers carry through the corridors. Some workers have even reported being touched or tugged, only to turn and find no one there. The second floor, where the keepers' families once lived, is said to be especially active. A number of visitors describe seeing a woman dressed in period clothing gazing out of the windows toward the sea, her expression sorrowful, as though waiting for a loved one who never returned. Ghost hunters and paranormal researchers consider the St. Augustine Lighthouse one of the most haunted sites in the country. Teams who have investigated the property often capture unexplained voices, both male and female, on audio recordings. Many have seen shadows darting between the stairwells or felt the overwhelming sensation of being watched from above. Perhaps the most unnerving accounts come from those who have climbed the 219 steps to the top alone. Several visitors reported reaching the final landing only to find a figure already there standing in silence before fading into nothingness. Flashlights have been known to turn on and off in response to simple questions, as if used as a toy by unseen little hands. Staff members sometimes leave out small trinkets, only to find them moved or missing by the next morning. Even in death, the children seem mischievous. The history of St. Augustine itself adds another layer to the haunting. As the oldest city in the United States, its streets are lined with centuries of battles, shipwrecks, and untold tragedies. The lighthouse, perched at the edge of it all, has absorbed more than its share of sorrow. Sailors lost to the unforgiving Atlantic, families torn apart by the sea, and keepers who dedicated their lives to the flame each left a piece of themselves behind. Even skeptics who visit often leave unsettled. Some say the isolation of the tower, the echo of footsteps on iron stairs, and the howl of the wind through its narrow windows simply play tricks on the mind. But others know better. They recall the sudden chill that no weather report can explain, the laughter of children where no children are present, and the heavy silence that lingers after the last tour group departs. Today, the St. Augustine Lighthouse stands as both a historic monument and a place of mystery. It draws in thousands of visitors every year, many seeking nothing more than a view of the ocean from its crown. Yet for others, it offers a glimpse into the unknown, a chance to stand in the same place where lives ended too soon, and to feel the presence of those who remain. The light continues to shine, guiding sailors safely past the treacherous waters of Florida's coast. But within its walls, the past is alive, and the spirits of the lighthouse keep their watch as faithfully as they did in life. Whether it is the keeper making his eternal rounds, or the children playing in endless twilight, the St. Augustine Lighthouse is a reminder that history is never truly silent. The living may come and go, but some souls have found a permanent home in the shadow of the spiral tower. Perched on a rugged cliff in Cape Elizabeth, Maine, the Portland Headlight is one of the oldest and most photographed lighthouses in the United States. Built in 1791 at the request of George Washington himself, the tower has stood as a sentinel against the crashing Atlantic waves for more than 2 centuries. By day, it is breathtaking, a postcard-perfect structure surrounded by jagged rocks and foaming seas. But when the fog rolls in and the night grows quiet, whispers of tragedy seem to echo from the stones. For beneath its beauty lies a darker legacy, stories of restless spirits, ghostly sailors, and keepers who may never have left their posts. The lighthouse has witnessed countless shipwrecks along Maine's unforgiving coast. One of the most tragic occurred in 1813, when the ship Annie C. Maguire slammed against the rocks on Christmas Eve. Despite the crew's desperate efforts, the vessel was destroyed. Miraculously, everyone aboard survived, but the wreck left a deep scar in the community and fueled whispers that the lighthouse's rocky perch was cursed. To this day, visitors claim to hear phantom cries rising from the surf, as though sailors lost to the sea are still calling out for rescue. Some report seeing the silhouette of a ship appear briefly in the mist before vanishing into thin air. The keepers of the Portland Headlight endured isolation and hardship. Among them was a man named Joshua Strout, who served faithfully with his family in the late 1800s. Tragedy struck when his beloved wife, Lydia, fell ill and died within the keeper's quarters. Devastated, Strout continued his duties, but locals say his grief was unbearable. After his death, tales began circulating of a woman's figure appearing in the windows of the old keeper's house, her form pale and sorrowful, staring out toward the sea. Many believe it is Lydia, eternally watching for her husband, or perhaps for the ships that never made it to shore. Visitors who walk the grounds at night often describe an uneasy sensation, as though eyes are upon them. The sound of heavy boots crunching over gravel has been reported by countless witnesses, yet no one is there when they turn around. Some have felt a tug on their clothing, or heard faint whispers carried on the wind. The stories grow more chilling inside the tower itself. Those who climb its steep stairs sometimes experience sudden cold spots or hear the metallic clang of footsteps echoing above them, even when they are alone. A few claim to have seen a shadowy figure pass across the lantern room at the top, its form flickering like a dark flame against the glass. The spirit most often associated with the Portland Headlight is that of a nameless sailor. Local lore tells of a storm that smashed a small vessel against the rocks in the 1800s. The crew perished, and the sea returned, their broken bodies days later, all except one. A lone sailor's corpse was never recovered, leading some to believe his restless soul remains near the lighthouse, forever searching for the shore he never reached. People walking along the cliffs have described a man in old seaman-esque clothes wandering near the edge, only to disappear when approached. Fishermen out at sea sometimes report a figure waving from the rocks, though no one is ever found. The harsh landscape adds to the sense of unease. Maine's winters are brutal, and the lighthouse has stood through countless storms that shook its walls and rattled its windows. Locals say that during the worst tempests, strange lights can be seen flickering across the grounds, darting from the tower to the cliffs, as though spirits themselves are carrying lanterns through the night. The most superstitious among them believe these are the souls of lost sailors, guiding one another through the fog long after death. Not all the hauntings are sorrowful. Some tales speak of the lighthouse keepers still dutifully tending to their charge. Staff working late have reported smelling the unmistakable scent of oil burning, though the lighthouse no longer uses such lamps. Others hear the distinct sound of a door closing firmly, the way a keeper might have secured it against the wind. Paranormal investigators who have visited the site often capture unexplained voices, deep, commanding tones that sound like orders being given, and softer voices that seem to answer. Many believe these are echoes of long-departed keepers, still carrying out their eternal duty. Despite its haunting reputation, the Portland Headlight continues to draw thousands of visitors each year. Families picnic on its grounds, photographers capture its dramatic beauty, and tourists climb to its heights to gaze out at the endless Atlantic. Yet many leave with more than just photographs. They take with them a memory of something they cannot explain, a fleeting shadow, a sudden chill, or the unmistakable feeling that they were not alone. For those who believe in spirits, the Portland Headlight is not just a landmark, it is a monument to those who lived and died along Maine's coast. Its stones hold the laughter of children who once played in the keeper's yard, the sorrow of families torn apart by illness, and the cries of sailors lost to the sea. Even skeptics admit that there is something about the place, a weight in the air that goes beyond history. As the beacon continues to shine over the Atlantic, it is more than a guide for sailors. It is a beacon for memory itself, drawing the living and the dead to its light. Some may come seeking safety, others solace, but all are bound together in the shadow of the Portland Headlight, a place where the past still lingers, and the line between this world and the next seems as fragile as the waves that break upon its rocks. The Cape May Lighthouse, rising above the southern tip of New Jersey, has watched over the waters since 1859. Standing more than 150 feet tall, it has long been a symbol of hope for sailors navigating the treacherous currents where the Delaware Bay meets the Atlantic Ocean. Yet, for all its beauty and historical significance, the lighthouse carries with it a reputation far darker than its postcard-perfect exterior suggests. Those who live near Cape May, and those who dare to explore its shadowed staircases after dark, speak of strange sights, unexplainable sounds, and a lingering presence that refuses to rest. Cape May itself is steeped in ghost stories. The seaside town is often called one of the most haunted places on the East Coast, with Victorian houses, old inns, and historic streets filled with tales of lingering spirits. The lighthouse, perched at the edge of this eerie landscape, is no exception. Over the decades, it has absorbed tragedy after tragedy, shipwrecks, lost sailors, lighthouse keepers who died in service, and even echoes of war. One of the most persistent legends tells of a keeper who dedicated his life to the lighthouse, only to die on duty. Locals whispered that his devotion was so strong that not even death could sever it. Climbers who make their way up the 199 iron steps often report hearing the slow tread of boots following them, keeping pace on the spiral staircase. Some describe the sensation of being watched from above, as though someone stands in the lantern room waiting for them. When they finally reach the top, there is never anyone there, only the endless view of ocean and sky, and the unshakable chill that comes with realizing the keeper's spirit may still be patrolling his post. The waters surrounding the lighthouse have claimed countless lives, and many believe those lost souls now drift back to the shore. On foggy nights, beachgoers sometimes hear cries carried on the wind, voices pleading for rescue that never arrives. Fishermen tell of seeing glowing figures moving near the surf or lantern-like lights bobbing along the shoreline before vanishing into the mist. Some even claim to have seen phantom ships offshore, their sails glowing pale in the moonlight before dissolving into the horizon. The grounds themselves hold a haunting energy. Visitors walking near the lighthouse at dusk often describe sudden drops in temperature, even on the warmest summer evenings. Shadows move along the sand with no clear source, and the salty air sometimes carries with it the faint smell of smoke or oil, reminiscent of the days when lighthouse keepers tended the great lamp by hand. Paranormal investigators who have visited Cape May Lighthouse frequently report electronic equipment failing or capturing faint, disembodied voices that seem to whisper names or fragments of sentences. Some of the most chilling reports come from the tower itself. Tourists who climb alone have told of hearing children's laughter echoing faintly inside the stone walls. Yet, when they pause and listen, the sound stops, leaving only silence. Others have felt an icy hand brush their shoulder as they climbed, or the sensation of their clothing being tugged from behind. Guides who lead tours at night have grown accustomed to nervous guests, swearing they saw a figure at the top of the stairs, only for it to disappear moments later. There are also stories of a woman's spirit tied to the lighthouse. No one knows her name, though some speculate she was the wife of a keeper, or perhaps the widow of a sailor who never returned. Witnesses claim to see her standing on the beach at night, her form glowing faintly, her gaze fixed out toward the dark ocean. She never speaks, never moves, only waits. Those who have seen her up close say she wears clothing from another era, her dress fluttering in the wind, though the night is still. Many believe she is a soul forever mourning, unable to leave the place where she once prayed for her husband's safe return. During the Civil War, Cape May played a role in protecting the coast. Soldiers were stationed nearby, and some stories suggest their spirits linger as well. Visitors occasionally report the sound of distant drum beats or gunfire near the lighthouse, faint and hollow, as though echoing from another time. A few even claim to have seen shadowy figures in uniform marching along the beach before vanishing into the dunes. The haunting reputation of the Cape May Lighthouse has made it a popular stop for ghost tours. Yet even skeptics admit that there is something unusual about the place. The combination of history, tragedy, and the raw power of the sea seems to create an atmosphere that is impossible to ignore. Standing at the base of the tower at night, when the wind howls through the iron railing and the waves pound the rocks below, it is easy to feel the weight of the past pressing in. The lighthouse remains active today, its beams sweeping across the water just as it has for more than 160 years. By day, it offers breathtaking views for those who climb to its crown. By night, it becomes a realm of mystery, where history and legend blur, and the veil between the living and the dead feels thin. Whether it is the devoted keeper still climbing his eternal staircase, the mourning woman gazing out at the sea, or the countless sailors whose lives ended in the surrounding waters, Cape May Lighthouse stands as a monument not only to navigation, but also to memory, and to the spirits that refuse to fade into history. The Montauk Point Lighthouse in New York is not only a landmark of history, but also a beacon of chilling ghost stories that have lingered for centuries. Standing tall on the easternmost tip of Long Island, the lighthouse has been a silent witness to shipwrecks, storms, and tragedies, all of which seem to echo within its walls long after the events themselves faded into the past. While visitors are drawn to its breathtaking views of the Atlantic Ocean, many leave with an uneasy feeling, as though unseen eyes are always watching. The stories of Montauk Point Lighthouse suggest that its keepers and sailors may never have truly left. One of the earliest legends tied to the lighthouse comes from its construction in the late 1700s, when workers claimed to hear disembodied voices on the cliffs. These voices, they said, seemed to rise from the ocean itself, calling out in languages they didn't recognize. Some believed they were the cries of shipwrecked sailors from centuries before, their spirits restless, tethered to the dangerous waters off Montauk Point. The area, known as the graveyard of the Atlantic, has swallowed countless ships, and it's easy to imagine their crews wandering eternally in search of peace. Inside the lighthouse, tales of ghostly apparitions abound. Keepers in the 1800s reported strange occurrences, such as footsteps echoing up and down the spiral staircase, when no one was there. One particularly unnerving story describes a keeper being awakened in the middle of the night by the sound of heavy boots climbing the steps. Thinking it was his assistant, he rushed out, only to find the lighthouse empty. Yet the sounds continued, the footsteps ascending steadily, until they stopped just outside the lantern room. When he gathered the courage to investigate, the room was still and silent, the flame flickering undisturbed, but the sensation of being watched lingered until morning. Visitors in modern times have also spoken of unsettling encounters. Some claim to see a man in a weather-beaten uniform standing near the top of the tower. He appears to be looking out to sea, perhaps scanning for ships or lost sailors, but when approached, he vanishes into thin air. Paranormal investigators who have studied Montauk Point Lighthouse suggest this figure could be the spirit of one of the early keepers, forever bound to his duty of watching over the dangerous coastline. Another legend tied to the lighthouse involves the Montayucat tribe, the original inhabitants of the area. According to local lore, some tribe members cursed the land after being displaced. Visitors claim that late at night, drums can sometimes be heard in the distance, accompanied by chanting that seems to echo through the ocean winds. No source of the sounds has ever been discovered, yet many who experience it describe the encounter as deeply unsettling, as if ancient spirits are still present and restless on the land. The cliffs around Montauk Point also hold eerie stories. Fishermen and hikers alike have described strange figures wandering the rocks at dusk. These shadowy forms often vanish when approached, leaving behind only the sound of waves crashing violently below. Some say these are the spirits of sailors who met their end on the treacherous waters, forever trying to make their way to shore. Others believe they are tied to the darker history of the area, which includes shipwrecks, drownings, and even whispers of piracy. Electronic disturbances are another recurring theme in the lighthouse's haunted reputation. Visitors taking photos often report strange mists or glowing orbs appearing in their images, even on clear days. Tour guides have also mentioned that radios, flashlights, and other devices sometimes fail mysteriously within the tower, only to work perfectly once outside. Paranormal enthusiasts argue that this could be the energy of lingering spirits interfering with electronics. The keeper's quarters, attached to the lighthouse, are also said to be active with paranormal energy. Guests staying overnight for research or special programs have reported doors opening and closing on their own, sudden drops in temperature, and whispers that seem to come from the walls themselves. One chilling account describes a visitor waking in the middle of the night to see a shadowy figure standing at the foot of their bed, only for it to dissolve into darkness the moment they blinked. Perhaps the most famous ghost story from Montauk Point Lighthouse is that of a keeper's wife who lived there in the 1800s. She was said to be lonely, isolated on the windswept cliffs, and after her untimely death, her presence never seemed to leave. Her spirit is said to roam the keeper's quarters. Her sorrowful figure occasionally spotted staring out of windows toward the sea. Some visitors have even reported smelling the faint scent of lavender perfume when no one else is nearby, believed to be a trace of her lingering spirit. What makes Montauk Point Lighthouse especially haunting is its combination of natural isolation and centuries of tragedy. The rugged beauty of the cliffs and the vastness of the Atlantic Ocean create the perfect backdrop for ghostly tales. With every storm that pounds the coastline, it's as if the voices of the past grow louder, reminding the living that the dead are never far away. Standing tall on the northern tip of Long Beach Island, New Jersey, Barnegat Lighthouse has watched over the Atlantic Ocean since 1859. Known affectionately as Old Barney, this towering red and white beacon has long been a source of guidance for sailors navigating the treacherous waters of Barnegat Inlet. But while its light has saved countless lives, the lighthouse also carries with it a reputation for shadows, dark stories whispered by locals and visitors who claim that Old Barney is far more than just a historic landmark. They say it is haunted, its walls echoing with the cries of shipwrecked sailors and the restless spirits who never found their way home. The waters surrounding Barnegat Inlet are notoriously dangerous. Powerful tides, shifting sandbars, and sudden storms earned the area the ominous nickname, the Graveyard of the Atlantic. Throughout the 18th and 19th centuries, ships were frequently dashed against the shoals, their crews lost to the sea, with so much tragedy unfolding right off its shores. It is little wonder that Barnegat Lighthouse is rumored to be a gathering place for the souls of the drowned. One of the most enduring tales is that of a ghostly figure seen wandering near the base of the lighthouse. On moonlit nights, witnesses describe a man in weathered seaman's clothes, dripping wet as though he'd just emerged from the ocean. His face is pale, and his eyes hold a look of desperate sorrow. Locals believe this spirit belongs to a sailor from a wreck in the mid-1800s, whose body was never recovered. According to legend, he searches endlessly along the shoreline, trying to find the shipmates he lost beneath the waves. Some visitors claim to hear his faint cries carried on the wind, like a whisper of grief that never fades. But he is not alone. Over the years, lighthouse keepers themselves reported chilling encounters within Old Barney's tower. During long, lonely nights, keepers wrote of hearing footsteps climbing the spiral staircase when no one else was inside. Doors creaked open, lanterns flickered without explanation, and eerie cold spots lingered in the air, even during summer heat. One former keeper recounted waking in the middle of the night to the sound of tapping on the glass of the lantern room, tapping that grew louder and more insistent, until it seemed like a frantic fist pounding to be let in. Yet, when he investigated, there was nothing but the endless sea stretching into the dark. Another ghost story tied to Barnegat Lighthouse speaks of a phantom ship that appears in the inlet during storms. Fishermen and boaters have claimed to see the shadowy outline of a large vessel, sails tattered, gliding silently across the waves. The ship never makes a sound, and when lightning flashes, it vanishes without a trace. Some say this is the specter of a merchant ship lost in an 1820 storm, doomed to replay its final voyage for eternity. Those who glimpse it are often filled with dread, as if they've been given a warning from beyond. One particularly chilling tale centers on the legend of a drowned keeper. While no official records confirm a keeper's death inside the lighthouse, the story persists among locals. According to lore, a keeper was making his rounds during a fierce storm when he slipped and fell to his death inside the tower. His ghost, it is said, lingers on the staircase, replaying his final moments. Visitors who have climbed the 217 steps to the lantern room sometimes report a sudden pressure on their chest, as though an unseen hand is holding them back, or the feeling of being shoved lightly as they ascend. Some even turn back, overcome by a wave of panic they cannot explain. Modern-day visitors often describe Barnegat Lighthouse as a place where time feels strangely warped. Tourists strolling its grounds sometimes hear faint voices carried on the wind snatches of conversation, laughter, or even cries for help. On quiet nights, the rhythmic crash of the waves seems to hide something else, the sound of weeping, echoing as though from beneath the sand. Those brave enough to linger after sunset have reported seeing glowing orbs dancing near the shoreline, hovering just above the surf before winking out. Despite its eerie reputation, Barnegat Lighthouse remains a beloved landmark. Families climb its spiral staircase for breathtaking views. Couples pose for photos against its bright red and white tower, and historians marvel at its enduring presence. Yet for those who listen closely, the past is never silent. Every gust of wind carries whispers of shipwrecks, of sailors lost to the sea, and of keepers who gave their lives in service to the light. Skeptics dismiss the ghost stories as tricks of the mind, the result of wind, waves, and imagination colliding in a place steeped in maritime history. But others believe Old Barney is more than just a lighthouse. They see it as a bridge between worlds, where the living and the dead coexist, bound together by the tragedies of the sea. Perhaps the spirits that linger here are not malevolent, but simply lost, unable to move on from the waters that claimed them. Bodie Island Lighthouse, standing tall along the windswept shores of North Carolina's Outer Banks, has guided sailors safely through the treacherous waters of the Atlantic since 1872. Its black and white stripes tower over the sand dunes, a striking beacon against the ever-changing skies. Yet, while Bodie Island Lighthouse is celebrated for its history and maritime significance, it is also steeped in stories of restless spirits and unexplained phenomena that have intrigued locals and visitors alike for decades. The waters around Bodie Island are notoriously dangerous, often called part of the graveyard of the Atlantic. Strong currents, hidden shoals, and sudden storms have claimed countless ships over the centuries. Many believe the souls of sailors lost at sea remain tethered to the shore, unable to find peace. Witnesses have described ghostly figures wandering the beach at night, appearing wet and weary, their eyes hollow, as if still searching for the ships that claimed their lives. Some claim to hear faint cries and whispered warnings carried on the wind, only to vanish when approached. Inside the lighthouse, paranormal activity has been reported for generations. Keepers in the 19th and early 20th centuries told stories of footsteps echoing along the spiral staircase when no one else was present. One tale recounts a keeper ascending the tower to inspect a lantern during a storm, only to hear another set of footsteps following him. When he turned, no one was there, yet the sounds continued until he reached the top. Modern visitors have also reported sudden drops in temperature, flickering lights, and the feeling of unseen eyes watching their every move. The keeper's quarters near the lighthouse are another hotspot for strange occurrences. Doors are known to open and close on their own, objects have been reported moving inexplicably, and cold spots appear without explanation. Some visitors have heard muffled whispers or low groans from empty rooms. Others describe a sudden touch on their shoulder, a fleeting contact that vanishes as quickly as it appears. Many believe these experiences are tied to the spirits of former keepers, who continue their eternal vigil, ensuring the lighthouse never fails to warn those at sea. One of the most enduring legends involves a lighthouse keeper who died in the tower during a storm. According to lore, he slipped on the spiral staircase while checking the lantern. Since then, multiple visitors have reported sensing his presence, hearing footsteps, pacing the stairs, or feeling a weight pressing down on their shoulders, as if the keeper is still patrolling his post. Some believe his spirit is protective, ensuring the lighthouse fulfills its mission, while others find his presence unnerving, a chilling reminder that some duties extend beyond death. Bodie Island Lighthouse is also linked to the spirits of lost sailors. On foggy nights, locals and fishermen have reported seeing figures emerging from the surf, dripping wet and moving silently along the shoreline. Phantom lanterns are sometimes seen bobbing along the dunes, as if guiding these lost souls or attempting to recreate their final journey. On particularly stormy evenings, faint cries are said to echo above the roar of the waves, the remnants of tragedies long past. Another haunting tale involves a woman in white, believed to be a relative of a keeper, mourning a lost loved one. Visitors have described her figure drifting along the beach at night, glowing faintly in the moonlight. She does not approach, but is often seen staring toward the horizon. And some claim she walks into the surf, merging with the waves, a ghostly representation of grief that never leaves. Even in broad daylight, the lighthouse has an air of mystery. Visitors climbing the spiral staircase sometimes report shadowy figures moving along the steps or catching glimpses of something watching from the landings. Paranormal investigators have documented strange electromagnetic activity, flickering lights, and voices recorded on devices, murmuring phrases like, "Keep the light," or "Watch the shore." These experiences reinforce the lighthouse's reputation as a place where the line between the living and the dead is thin. Despite its haunted reputation, Bodie Island Lighthouse remains a cherished landmark, Tourists climb its 214 steps to enjoy breathtaking views of the dunes and the Atlantic Ocean, while photographers capture its iconic black and white tower against sunsets and storms. Yet for those who sense the supernatural, Bodie Island is more than a historical site. It is a place alive with echoes of the past, a beacon for both sailors and spirits who never left its shores. Standing at the base of Bodie Island Lighthouse, it is easy to feel the weight of its history. The keepers, the lost sailors, and the mourners of bygone eras seem to linger in the air, watching, waiting, and guiding those who venture near. Visitors often leave with memories of its beauty, but some leave with an inexplicable sense that the lighthouse itself is alive with unseen eyes, forever tethered to the wind-swept coast and the restless spirits of Bodie Island. Rising quietly along the windswept shores of Assateague Island, straddling the Maryland and Virginia border, the Assateague Lighthouse has long guided ships safely through the treacherous waters of the Atlantic. Built in 1867, the tower stands as a sentinel above the sand dunes, a symbol of safety for sailors navigating the shifting shoals and storm-swept coastlines. Yet beneath its historical charm and picturesque surroundings lies a reputation for eerie happenings and restless spirits that make this lighthouse one of the most haunted along the eastern seaboard. Assateague Island itself is known for its wild horses and untamed landscapes, but the island also has a dark maritime history. Shipwrecks have occurred for centuries, with countless vessels lost to the strong currents, hidden shoals, and sudden storms that make these waters infamous. Local legends suggest that some of the sailors who perished here never truly left, their spirits lingering in the dunes and the lighthouse, forever bound to the island that claimed them. Many visitors and lighthouse staff have shared unsettling experiences that hint at a supernatural presence. One of the most common ghost stories involves a keeper who lived at the lighthouse in the late 19th century. According to legend, he was a devoted man, dedicated to ensuring the beacon never faltered. One stormy night, as high winds and rain lashed the tower, he climbed to the lantern room to inspect the light. Eyewitnesses say he slipped and fell to his death inside the tower. Some claim his spirit remained to continue his watch, his presence still felt by those who climbed the spiral stairs. Visitors report the sensation of being followed by unseen eyes and hearing footsteps pacing behind them when no one is there. Others feel a sudden chill or pressure on their shoulders, as though someone is guiding or warning them. The keeper's quarters, a modest building near the tower, is said to be another hotspot for paranormal activity. Staff who spend time there alone have reported objects moving on their own, doors swinging open and slamming shut, and mysterious cold spots that appear without explanation. Some describe hearing muffled whispers or low groans in empty rooms, sounds that vanish when they try to investigate. One guide claimed to feel a warm hand brush past her arm while walking through a corridor. Yet when she turned, no one was present. Many believe these occurrences are the lingering echoes of lighthouse keepers or visitors from decades past. The Assateague Lighthouse is also linked to the spirits of sailors lost at sea. Locals tell stories of ghostly figures emerging from the surf during foggy nights. They appear wet and worn, their eyes hollow and pleading, wandering the beach as though searching for something unattainable. Fishermen and beachgoers have reported hearing cries for help carried on the wind, but when they investigate, they find only the crashing waves and the shifting sand. Some have even claimed to see lantern-like lights bobbing across the dunes, illuminating the figures of these spectral sailors before fading into the darkness. One particularly eerie legend involves a woman who lived near the lighthouse long ago. Supposedly, she lost her husband to the dangerous waters and waited on the shore for his return. Visitors have described seeing her figure in white, drifting along the beach at night, her gaze fixed on the horizon. She never approaches, but her presence is unmistakable. Some believe she walks into the water, her form blending with the waves, a poignant reminder of grief that refuses to let go. Inside the lighthouse, the spiral stairs are said to be a conduit for paranormal activity. Visitors climbing to the top have reported hearing tapping on the railings, distant footsteps, or the sudden creak of the stairs under invisible weight. Some claim that shadowy figures appear on the upper landings, watching them silently before vanishing. Paranormal investigators have captured faint voices on recording devices, murmurs that seem to carry fragments of conversations from a time long past. Others report equipment malfunctions or unexplained flashes of light within the tower, leading some to believe that the energy of the spirits interferes with technology. The island's isolation only amplifies the haunting atmosphere. Sightings is known for its harsh storms, pounding waves, and winds that whip across the dunes, creating a natural soundtrack of eerie moans and whispers. Many visitors describe feeling an unnatural sense of being watched, even during the day, as though invisible eyes track their every move. At night, the sounds of the ocean, combined with the lighthouse's history of shipwrecks and loss, can make the environment feel like a threshold between the living and the dead. Despite its eerie reputation, the Sightings Lighthouse remains a beloved landmark. Tourists climb its steps for breathtaking views of the ocean and dunes, while photographers capture its iconic silhouette against the sky. But those who linger after dark often report experiences that cannot be explained. A sudden cold draft, a whisper in the wind, or a fleeting shadow in the lantern room serves as a reminder that the lighthouse is more than just a historic beacon. It is a place where history, tragedy, and the supernatural converge. The Sightings Lighthouse continues to guide ships safely, but it also seems to serve as a home for spirits tied to the island. The keepers, sailors, and mourners who have left their mark over the decades may still roam its grounds, climbing its stairs, wandering its rooms, and gazing across the water. For those who dare to visit, the lighthouse is a haunting experience, a place where the boundary between the living and the dead feels impossibly thin. Standing on the sandy dunes beneath its towering presence, it is easy to imagine the stories of the past reaching out through the fog, the cries of the lost echoing in the wind, and the watchful eyes of spirits continuing their eternal vigil. Sightings Lighthouse is a testament to maritime history, natural beauty, and human resilience. But for those who believe in the supernatural, it is also a place of chilling mystery. Its walls hold echoes of grief, duty, and tragedy, and its grounds are haunted by the restless souls of the past. Visitors leave with breathtaking views and memories of the beach, but some leave with an inexplicable sense that they were not alone, that the lighthouse's spectral inhabitants were silently watching, guarding, and waiting, just as they have for more than a century. Rising above the windswept sands of North Carolina's Outer Banks, the Cape Lookout Lighthouse stands as a sentinel against the Atlantic's unpredictable currents. Its striking black and white diamond pattern is visible for miles, guiding sailors safely through the perilous waters of Core Sound and the surrounding shoals. Built in 1859, the lighthouse has survived hurricanes, storms, and countless shipwrecks, serving as a beacon of hope and warning. Yet beyond its history and utility, Cape Lookout Lighthouse is shrouded in tales of ghosts, strange occurrences, and restless spirits that have made it one of the most haunted lighthouses along the East Coast. The waters around Cape Lookout are notoriously dangerous, often referred to as part of the graveyard of the Atlantic. Strong tides, hidden shoals, and sudden storms have claimed countless vessels over the centuries. Many of the sailors lost in these waters are said to linger near the lighthouse, their spirits tethered to the shoreline, unable to find peace. Fishermen and visitors alike have reported strange lights flickering offshore, which some interpret as the lanterns of ghostly ships replaying their doomed voyages. Others claim to hear cries for help carried on the wind, faint voices rising from the waves, only to vanish when they draw near. Inside the lighthouse, stories of haunting are equally unsettling. Keepers in the late 19th and early 20th centuries often reported hearing footsteps echoing along the spiral staircase when no one else was present. One account tells of a keeper climbing the 172 steps to inspect a lantern during a storm, only to hear another set of steps following him. When he turned, no one was there. Yet, the footsteps continued until he reached the lantern room. Paranormal enthusiasts believe these sounds are the echoes of keepers from decades past, still dutifully patrolling the tower in life and death. The keeper's quarters near Cape Lookout Lighthouse have also been the center of supernatural activity. Objects move inexplicably, doors open and slam on their own, and cold spots appear without explanation. Visitors have reported hearing whispers that seem to come from empty rooms, fragments of conversations from a bygone era. Some claim to have felt a brush of cold air or the sensation of a hand on their shoulder, a fleeting touch that vanishes as quickly as it appears. Many who have experienced these events believe the spirits of former keepers and their families remain on the island, tied to the lighthouse and its mission of vigilance. One of the most chilling tales involves a sailor lost in the treacherous waters near Cape Lookout. Local legend says he was separated from his crew during a violent storm and never made it to shore. Fishermen and residents have occasionally reported seeing a figure in wet, tattered clothing wandering near the dunes at night, staring out at the sea with hollow eyes. Some interpret this figure as the sailor's restless spirit, forever searching for the land he never reached in life. On stormy evenings, witnesses say his cries can sometimes be heard faintly over the roar of the waves. Another haunting involves a woman in white, often seen wandering near the lighthouse. Locals believe she may have been the wife or daughter of a keeper, mourning a loved one lost to the sea. She drifts silently across the sand, her figure glowing faintly in the moonlight. Visitors describe the unsettling feeling of being watched or seeing her reflection in the water before she vanishes. Others say she walks into the surf, merging with the waves, a spectral reminder of grief and longing that endures beyond death. The lighthouse tower itself seems alive with residual energy. Visitors climbing to the top have reported sudden drops in temperature, the sensation of being pulled or held, and fleeting glimpses of shadowy figures at landings along the stairs. Paranormal investigators who have visited Cape Lookout Lighthouse captured unexplained voices and odd electronic disturbances. Some report EMF spikes and flickering lights in the lantern room, often accompanied by the faint scent of oil, despite the modern lighting system. These anomalies have led many to believe that the spirits of long-dead keepers and sailors remain bound to the tower. Cape Lookout's isolation amplifies its eerie atmosphere. The winds across the dunes carry haunting sounds, the crash of waves, the howl of storms, and sometimes the faint echoes of human voices. Hikers, campers, and visitors walking the beaches after dark have reported feeling a presence following them. Footsteps behind them that stop when they stop, and a sense of being watched by unseen eyes. Even in broad daylight, the lighthouse seems to hold a weight, an almost tangible connection to the tragedies and history of the coast. Despite its chilling stories, Cape Lookout Lighthouse remains a celebrated landmark. Tourists climb its spiral staircase to admire breathtaking views of the surrounding waters and sand dunes. Families picnic near its base, and photographers capture its iconic diamond-patterned exterior against sunsets and storms alike. Yet, for those attuned to the supernatural, the lighthouse is more than a historic structure. It is a place where the past and present intersect, where history and legend blend seamlessly with the mist, waves, and wind. The lighthouse continues to guide ships safely, but it also seems to guide the spirits of the past. The keepers, sailors, and mourners who have left their mark over centuries may still patrol the tower, wander the dunes, or gaze across the surf. Visitors often leave Cape Lookout with stories of inexplicable sensations, sudden chill, a fleeting shadow, or a faint whisper in the wind. The lighthouse stands as a sentinel, not only for the living but for the dead. A haunting reminder that some souls never leave the shores they once called home. Cape Lookout Lighthouse is more than a beacon of safety, is a monument to human endurance, maritime history, and the supernatural. Its walls hold echoes of tragedy and devotion. Its grounds resonate with the footsteps of those who lived and died by its light. And its presence reminds all who visit that the line between the living and the dead can be as thin as the mist rolling in from the Atlantic. Those who dare to venture near its base or climb its stairs after dark may find themselves touched by the unseen, witnessing the lingering spirits of a coast that has long been shaped by storms, shipwrecks, and the eternal vigilance of the lighthouse. rising over the sandy shores of Georgia's Tybee Island. The Tybee Island Lighthouse has guided sailors safely through the waters of the Atlantic since the 18th century. With its black and white stripes and towering presence, it is one of the oldest and most historic lighthouses in the region. But beyond its picturesque charm and rich history, the lighthouse has long been shrouded in tales of hauntings, unexplained occurrences, and restless spirits. But a gathering place for those who never left. Tybee Island's history is steeped in maritime danger and tragedy. The surrounding waters have claimed countless ships over the centuries, and the shoreline has witnessed drownings, storms, and shipwrecks that claimed both lives and cargo. Many believe the souls of those lost at sea still linger near the lighthouse, their presence manifesting in eerie sounds, fleeting shadows, and unexplained movements. On foggy nights, some claim to hear the faint cries of sailors carried by the wind, voices that vanish when one approaches, leaving only the sound of waves crashing against a shore. Inside the lighthouse, stories of supernatural occurrences abound. Lighthouse keepers in the 19th and early 20th centuries reported hearing footsteps echoing along the spiral staircase when no one else was present. One account tells of a keeper climbing the tower late at night to check the lantern, only to hear another set of steps following him. Turning, he found no one there, yet the sound of footsteps continued until he reached the top. Paranormal enthusiasts visiting the lighthouse today have captured similar phenomena: strange noises, flickering lights, and sudden drops in temperature that seem to defy explanation. The keeper's quarters, adjacent to the lighthouse, have also become a hotspot for mysterious activity. Visitors report objects moving on their own, doors opening and closing without cause, and the sensation of being watched. Some describe hearing whispers or muffled conversations in empty rooms, and others claim to feel a fleeting touch on their shoulders, as if someone unseen is guiding or warning them. Many believe these experiences are tied to the spirits of past lighthouse keepers, who remain dedicated to their posts, even in death. One of the most persistent legends involves a keeper who met a tragic end during a storm. According to local lore, he was ascending the tower to inspect the light when he slipped and fell to his death on the spiral staircase. Since then, numerous visitors and guides have reported feeling the presence of a man pacing the stairs behind them, hearing footsteps, or sensing a cold, watchful energy. Some say the spirit is protective, ensuring that the lighthouse continues to function safely, while others find his presence unnerving, a reminder that duty can extend beyond life. Tybee Island Lighthouse is also associated with the spirits of those lost at sea. Fishermen and residents have recounted seeing ghostly figures emerging from the surf on foggy nights. These figures appear wet, weather-beaten, and sorrowful, wandering along the shore as if searching for a way back to safety. Some even report seeing phantom lanterns bobbing in the dunes or along the water's edge, as though the sailors are guiding themselves or others toward the lighthouse. On particularly stormy nights, the cries of these spirits are said to be audible over the roar of the waves, haunting those brave enough to listen. Another chilling tale involves a woman in white, reportedly seen walking along the beach near the lighthouse. Locals believe she may have been a wife or daughter of a keeper, her figure glowing faintly under the moonlight. Some have seen her walk toward the ocean, merging with the waves, a poignant reminder of grief that transcends life and death. Inside the lighthouse, visitors have reported seeing shadowy figures at the top of the spiral staircase, or flickers of movement in the lantern room. Paranormal investigators have documented strange electromagnetic activity, flickering lights, and fleeting orbs that appear in photographs. Some claim to have captured faint voices, murmuring phrases like "keep the light" or "watch the shore," perhaps echoes of the past keepers continuing their eternal vigil. These experiences reinforce the lighthouse's reputation as a place where the boundary between the living and the dead is remarkably thin. Tybee Island's isolation, particularly along the dunes and marshlands surrounding the lighthouse, amplifies its haunted atmosphere. The wind carries sounds that seem almost human. Footsteps, whispers, cries, and faint laughter. Campers and nighttime visitors have reported sudden chills, feelings of being watched, and the sensation of being followed along paths near the lighthouse. Even in daylight, the energy of the lighthouse can be unsettling, as though the shadows and echoes of the past are never far from the present. Despite its haunted reputation, the Tybee Island Lighthouse remains a treasured historic site and popular tourist destination. Visitors climb the spiral stairs for breathtaking views of the Atlantic and the surrounding islands. Families explore the keeper's quarters, and photographers capture the lighthouse's striking exterior against sunrise and sunset. Yet, for those attuned to the paranormal, the lighthouse is more than a historic monument. It is a place alive with echoes of the past, a beacon not only for ships but for the spirits who remain tied to its tower, its light, and the unforgiving waters of Tybee Island. Standing at the base of Tybee Island Lighthouse, it is easy to feel the weight of its history and the presence of those who came before. The keepers, the sailors, the lost and mourning, their stories linger in the sand, the wind, and the tower itself. Visitors often leave with memories of the beautiful scenery, but some leave with the uneasy realization that the lighthouse watches more than just the ocean. Its spirits are present, observing, guiding, and forever tied to a place where light meets darkness, life meets death, and the past refuses to fade. Well, there you have it. 10 haunted lighthouses along the East Coast where the past never truly rests. Some may say these stories are just legends, mere whispers carried by the wind. But for those who've walked these halls alone, for those who've felt a cold hand when no one is there, the truth is far more terrifying. If tonight's tales have sent shivers down your spine, remember, the East Coast is full of secrets, and the shadows always watch. Thank you for joining me on this haunted journey. If you enjoyed wandering these ghostly lighthouses with me, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and ring that bell, because we're just getting started. Next week, we'll explore abandoned insane asylums and the spirits that refuse to leave. Until then, stay safe, keep the lights on, and maybe, just maybe, listen carefully the next time you hear a whisper in the dark. Good night, and sweet nightmares.